A new note on Sapiens, Yuval Hariri. Um, fantastic magnum opus, that deals with so much. It's overwhelming, it's wondrous, glorious. Now I'm thinking, because we have two animals in the background. Earlier on, I was reading chapter which has a take on happiness. Now, in the past, comparing the levels, and also animals that are tortured by humans in huge numbers. Billions of them are massacred, are kept in terrible conditions. He writes about the poultry, the fact that chicken are kept in cages that fall together, that allow no socializing, no life other than a tortured life. Can't raise their head, move their wings, and the same for pigs. Pigs are the cleverest animals, except for monkeys, for primates. I think it's what Harari says. In studies, it's not that he says it. His book is a scientific one. It's based on not just his opinions. He has some, but he refers to the studies of Harry with the monkey babies, and the fact that they were given a mother of wire with milk, with food, and the mother, surrogate, of course, with some cloth, which resembled more the, let's call it, maternal figure that offers some sense of affection. He will not choose food. He would choose the termina, the babies, not just one. Would choose the cloth figure. So, in other words, animals are the basics. And how can we be happy? That's also the context there. How can we be happy if we do this on such a large scale to animals? Not out of cruelty, as he says. Well, some are cruel, of course, but indifference. That it's and it is compared, I think, to some extent, with the slaves. Slave traders didn't hate slaves, but they were just indifferent. They saw them as a means to profit, a means to an end, which was to their advantage. And the same thing is now applicable to animals. He's going further into a wide range of subjects, such as the destruction of the environment, the fact that it may end up terribly. These are not his words. That's the notion, the impression I have. He mentions some interesting things, and I disagree with him on out of the 1,000 points he makes. Let's just give a scale. I found one or two where, no, in fact, it's just one. The idea that they should have given the Nobel Prize to the committee responsible for the invention of the atomic bomb. Maybe preposterous for some. Indeed, he has some very interesting ideas which are not just counterintuitive. They go against the culture of the day, the politically correct dogmas, cliches of this moment. But he has a point there. With the atomic weapons, superpowers knew they can, to attack is to commit suicide, mass suicide, I mean. So that prevented many. But then he has a few things like, we can't conceive, war is inconceivable in places. Can you imagine, as opposed to the past when, okay, there's peace in this year, but we can expect France and Germany to go to war in the next year. No, we can't imagine for any reason, except, I don't know, something apocalyptic. France and Germany to war. But then he goes on, or China and Japan. How can you say that? China and Japan can go to war next year. It's not that the chances are 80%. No, maybe they're just 3%. I'm just giving, but there are chances. It's also true, he explains, and I agree with him, as I said, he has 1,000, more than 1,000, 10,000 times out of, no, 9,999 times out of 10,000, he's correct. Maybe more than that. But on this one, unlikely as it is, it's still a possibility. He fails to think of the Shukoku or the Kaku or Shukoku. It might be the Japanese call it that, but the Chinese call it a different name, and they see it as their own. And not just that, but in the past they just sent ships to enter the territory of the waters, which are, by the way, part of Japan, as it is now. Legally, possession doesn't mean rightful ownership, of course. Disputes the international court in The Hague and in other places too. Chile and Bolivia? Bolivia wants access to the ocean a little bit, and then they had a war, and then they say, okay, we could talk about it. But here, China is more and more bullish. Okay? And unlikely as it is, it's not impossible. France and Germany, yes, this is impossible. China and Japan, no. There have been tensions, and it can be an accident. It's also another question of in some of those areas, some of those territories, they don't want that. As Hariri says, peace is essential for the development of China and Japan, and in other places they know that. Investors will not come if it's war. But still, an accident can happen. The two ships, they clash, a gung-ho captain starts shooting, some die there, an airplane happens to be in another one, he sinks the ship, a few hundred die, and then you see what I mean, tit for tat. Another ship is sank, and then a few airplanes, and it's war. So that can happen. That's what I'm saying. He has some interesting scenarios. Also, in the argument against war, the fact that once upon a time wars made sense in some other ways. You took the land, you had property, you gained. Now what? Let's say the Chinese attack California. The wealth in California is not the land; it's silicon and the celluloid, the movies they make, and of course the engineers, the specialists, the scientists that Google, the others employ. So if the Chinese tanks would march down Sunset Boulevard, what do they gain? Because the filmmakers, the others would have taken a plane to Bangalore long time before the Chinese tanks would roll down this where is it, in Hollywood, this boulevard. So a fantastic book. I rushed through it, so parts have escaped me, and I'm debating a little. But I think I will have to go through it. It's an audiobook format. It will have to be read to me again. It's so fantastic.